To begin, let's start with our green yarn so we can create the base of our cactus. We're going to start off by creating a chain. So take your green yarn, and what I like to do is I'll take my yarn and hold it in half like this, and then I'm going to twist it. And then with this side, inside the loop, I'm just going to grab this yarn and pull it through. And that's called a slip knot. So now we can take our crochet hook and insert it inside the circle, and let's just pull on these two strings here to tighten it up. Now we're going to create a chain of 17. So a chain is yarning over and pulling through the loop. So that's 1. Let's yarn over again for 2, 3, and I'm just going to continue doing this until I get to a chain of 17. This chain of 17 is going to be my first round. So for round 2, we're just going to single crochet this entire chain. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going into this first chain right here. I'm actually going into this second one, which means I'll end up with a total of 16 stitches in this round. Remember, not the one closest to the hook, the second one. So I'm going in with a single crochet, which means I'm just going to take my hook, I'm going inside that stitch or that chain, and then I'm pulling some yarn through. I have 2 loops. I'm going to yarn over and pull through both. So I'll show that one more time. I'm going into the next chain. I'm pulling some yarn through. I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm yarning over and pulling through both. I'll show that one more time before I speed this up. So I'm going into my next chain. I'm taking this yarn and pulling it through. I have 2 loops. I'm yarning over and pulling through both. So now I'll speed this up until I get to the end of this row. I've made it to the end and I have 1 single crochet left. I just wanted to show you my last single crochet. And now moving on to round 3, we're going to start off by chaining 1. So remember, a chain is yarning over a hook and pulling through. Now we have to turn our work, and then we're going to single crochet into the back loops only. Also in my pattern, a chain 1 is going to count as the stitch. So that means we're not going into, you see this right here, you're not going to single crochet into this little spot. You're actually going into this one here, and we're going into the back loops only. So this is currently facing us, which means this part of the stitch is the front loop, and then this right here is the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight through the middle of this stitch and out to the back, and then I'm going to pull some yarn through. There's 2 loops. I'm yarning over and pulling through both. So I'll show that again. So this stitch is the front loop, here is the back, so that means I'm going in, out to the back, pulling through. There's my 2 loops. Oops. Yarning over and pulling through both. So I'll show that one more time before I speed this up. So here's my next stitch that's in front of me, or well, yeah, in front of me, and then I'm going to go into the middle, out to the back, pulling this yarn through, yarning over, and pulling through. So remember, that chain does count as a stitch, so you're going to count that all the way to the end until you get 16 stitches in total. I made it to the end of round 3, and you can see here I have 1 single crochet left to do into the back loop only. So I'm just going to go into that one to do a single crochet, and I'll show you what it looks like when you count it. So this right here, what we did was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and don't forget your chain, which is this guy here. That's 16. So now moving on to round 4, we're basically going to do the same thing. So I'm going to start off with a chain of 1. So let's yarn over, pull through, and then we're going to turn our work, and we're going to single crochet into the back loops only once again. And I have to remind you again that this chain 1 does count as a stitch, which means you're not going into this first stitch here, or what looks like a stitch. I know some people do that, but I don't do that. So I'm not going into this first one, I'm going into the second one. So I'm just going to single crochet into the back loops only. To show you the back loops only once again, here is the front part. This is the back, so I'm going straight into the middle and pushing out through the back. And then I'm going to pull the yarn through. I have my 2 loops, yarning over and pulling through both. Now because this is the same process, I will just speed this up so the video isn't too long, but I did show the back loops only a couple times, so hopefully you got the hang of it, and I will speed this up now. I currently have 14 stitches right now, and I just wanted to show you the last 2. So for 15, you can see there's my last stitch. I'm just going into the back loop, pulling through for a single crochet. So now for the chain, you can kind of see it right here. I'm just going to go into that chain, and it's not really a back loop because the chain doesn't have like a back or front. We're just going through it, and then I have my 2 loops, yarning over and pulling through both. So now I just want to explain what we did. So for round 1 we had a chain. For round 2 we just single crocheted. For round 3 and 4 we did a back loop only. Now what we're going to be repeating is round 2 to 4. So that was the single crochet and then the 2 back loops only. So you're going to repeat that until you get to the length you want. I am going up to round 26, and I will show that process one more time. So to show the steps one more time, I'm going to start with round 5 now, and for round 5 it's going to be a single crochet. So let's yarn over, pull through. Every time you start a new row you have to chain 1 and turn your work, and now we're just going to single crochet. So for the single crochet it's the same thing, it's just that you're not going into the back loops only, you're just doing a normal one. So you're not going into this like corner stitch, you're going into that second one, and you're going through the entire stitch for your single crochet. So that was my 2 loops, pulling through. So I'm just going to continue doing this until I get to the end of this row. So remember, just a single crochet going through the entire stitch. There's the 2 loops, yarn over, pull through both. I'm at the end of round 5, and I just wanted to show this again. I do have 2 stitches left, so I'm going to go into this last stitch here for 15, and then I won't forget to go into my chain for my last single crochet to make it 16 stitches total. So now moving on to round 6, you want to chain 1, turn your work, and now we're single crocheting into the back loops only. So going into that second stitch, going in the middle, out through the back. Oops. If I can get there. There we go. Nope. Okay, now there we go. And then I'm just going to do the single crochet, and I'll just do single crochets into the back loops only for round 6. Now that I'm towards the end of round 6, I'm just going into this chain to finish off my last single crochet. And then for round 7, to repeat those steps, I have to chain 1, turn my work, and now for round 7, again, we're doing the back loops only. So don't go into this corner stitch, you go into this second one, in the middle, out through the back. There's the 2 loops, yarning over and pulling through both. So again, there's the middle, out to the back, pull some yarn through, and yarn over and pull it through both. So I'll continue doing this until I reach the end of this row. When you finish rows 1 to row 7, this is what it looks like, and I do want to show you my pattern really quick. So I know this isn't the most professional looking, but I usually don't show this to people. It's just for my own eyes. But what you're doing is just repeating these steps right here. So we're going to go to row 8 to 10. And I think I will just show row 8 to 10 one more time, or these steps again. But we're going to do a single crochet row, and then you're repeating a back loop only row 2 times, and then you're going back to the single and then the back loops. So I am going to row 26, and when I end up with this row, I will do a normal single crochet row. So let me just show you the rows 8 to 10 before I go off camera to do these steps. So let's start off with our single crochet row. So let me go back in here, and now I'm going to chain 1 for, this is row 8. That's the chain 1. I'm turning my work, and now I'm going to do a single crochet. We don't go into this chain or this first little stitch here. We're going into the second one to do our normal single crochet. Just go into your stitch. This is a normal single crochet, yarn over, pull through both, and now I'll just speed this up a bit. I'm at the end of row 8. I have 2 stitches left, so I'm going into that second to last one there, and then I'm going into my chain for the last 16th stitch, and then I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and we're going on to round 9 now, and we're doing a back loop only single crochet. So I'm going into my second stitch, I'm going in through the middle, out through the back, and let's continue doing a single crochet into the back loops only for round 9. Round 9, I just have 1 stitch left, which is in this chain here. I did my single crochet. Now I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and I'm moving on to round 10 or row 10. And for row 10, again, we're doing the back loop only single crochet, because we want to create our little ridges. So I'll just continue doing the back loop single crochet until I get to the end. After you finish row 10, this is what it looks like, and I will go off camera to finish the rest, but I do want to show you a little reminder in case you need it. I am going up to row 26. I will be ending off with a normal single crochet row. So this is where we're currently at, row 10, and remember, you're just repeating 3 steps: a single crochet row, a back loop only row, and another back loop only row with a single crochet. Remember to always chain 1 and turn your work. So now I'll be back once I finish. I'm back after finishing row 26, and this is what it looks like. So now I'm just going to cut off some yarn, and I do need to cut off some excess so I can sew these together. So I'm just going to take about, let's see, this much right here. I don't know the exact length, but just make sure it's long enough so you can sew the top and the side. And now once you cut it off, you can just pull it straight out. And now we're going to take our threading needle that's for our yarn, and then we're going to sew this together. So you can just take the ends and insert your yarn. So the way that I close this up is I like to start off with the top part. So I'm just going to fold this in half, and I'm going to go straight into this other side. So you can see this is the opening here. I'm just going to go into the other side, and I'm going to pull it straight through. And now I'm going to weave in and out of this top part. So to do that, I just like to hold it flat down, and then I'm just going to go. So I just went in, so you can see it's in there now, and then I'm going back out, in, and out. And then I'm just going to pull it out now. And I'll repeat that until I get back to this middle portion here. So again, I'll show you that one more time. In, back out, in, and then back out, and then just pull it out. Again, we're going in and out, in and out. And then as you can see, well, actually I don't want to pull it yet because I have just a little bit more, so I'm almost at the end. So I'm gonna go in and then back out. So you can see I'm back at this opening here. And so now when I pull on this, it's going to close up. So you can see it closed up just like that. And then now I'm going to sew down at this side. If you wanted to close this up a little bit more, you can sew it, but I'm just going to leave it because I'm covering it with the flower anyways. But what we can do now before we start sewing in the sides, let's actually go into the middle of the cactus and we're going to push it back in there. And don't pull it all the way. So you can see I'm holding on to this yarn right here. And I still have this loop again. I'm not letting it go. I'm going to take this yarn or the threading needle and go into this loop. And now I can let it go and just pull it. So that's just one way we can secure it up. Now let's sew these sides together. So I'm going to close it up, remove this dog hair. Sew it. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just going to take the two sides. So you can see I'm going through one side, out through the next, and I'm just going to pull it out. And then I'm going to repeat that. So now I can line it up together, or if you want, you can just go like this, one side to match it up with the next stitch on the other piece. Again, just pull it. So I'm going to continue doing that. I might speed this up because I don't want the video too long. Plus my battery is running out. Once you reach the end, this is what it looks like. It kind of looks like a pickle right now. So what I'm going to do just to make this secure is I'm going to go into a stitch. So right now I have I was going to say the pickle. I have the cactus pointing down. I'm going to just insert it into one of these stitches. And again, I'm not going to pull all the way. I'm going to make sure I have a loop still. So you can see my thumb is making sure the yarn doesn't go all the way through. And so I have this loop and I'm going to take the threading needle and put it into the loop. And I'll secure it that way. Now you don't need to cut the yarn. If it's in your way, you can cut it, but I just stuff it back in. And now we're done with the base of the cactus. So you can stuff this now, and you could add some safety eyes if you wanted to make a face, but I'm not going to do that because it's a little too extra for me right now. So I'm going to take my stuffing and fill this up. I didn't stuff this up too much just yet because we will be working with some brown yarn, and we are going to make the cactus arms a little bit later, but first let's grab our brown yarn to attach to this. This brown yarn has all of my dog hair on it, but let's attach some brown, and I'm going to put it where we had sewed it closed. So it looks like it was, oh my god, where was it? So right here, I'm just going to attach my yarn. So I'm going to take my brown, and I'm not the best at color change, so if you know anything better than me, you can go ahead and do that. But I'm just going to take my yarn and tie it. So you saw I just inserted it into a stitch, and I just tied it, and then I'm just going to push this brown yarn back in. And we're going to single crochet 18 times, but first let's chain one. So let's go back into that stitch where we attached the brown. Actually, you don't have to chain one, you can just pull it like this. Sometimes I chain one and sometimes I just pull it through like that. It just kind of depends. But since on my pattern for myself I wrote chain one, let's just do a chain one. Sorry, I'm like losing it. Okay, so now let's single crochet 18 around this entire thing. So I know these aren't stitches, you can't see anything where to go through. You just want to single crochet wherever it fits, and just make sure you can fit 18 stitches. So this is one. I'm actually going to speed this up after a couple. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh my gosh. So it might be a little bit hard to get through some of these. Okay, so I did 8 right now. I'm going to finish the rest, but this is what it currently looks like. So remember, just make sure you can single crochet 18 times around this cactus. I just finished my 18 single crochets. So I did do my last single crochet where I originally attached the brown, and now I'm just going to take my stitch marker and place it into my last stitch. And now we can begin round 2. So for round 2, we're going to start off with an increase. This is an increasing round. And remember that chain 1 we originally started off with? So that's that chain 1 right there. We're not going into that stitch. So if you are confused, so you see where we just place our stitch marker? You can just count that one. So that's 1, and you go all the way around until you find your 18th stitch, and that's where you're going to start off for round 2. So if you are confused, if you don't see your chain 1, so this is chain 1 right here, I'm not going into this. I'm going into the second one because that's the chain 1. But remember, if you lose your count, just start here for 1, count around until you get to 18th, and that's where you're going to start for round 2. So for round 2, let's start off with an increase. So I'm going into the stitch here and an increase. We're going to do an increase with a single crochet, which means we have to do 2 single crochets into this first stitch. It might be hard to see because it is brown, but let's go in, pull your yarn through, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, or the 2 loops, and then you go into the same stitch for another increase. For another single crochet. Okay, I feel like I'm losing my mind because I started filming at like 5 or 6 in the morning and now it's like 8. But okay, now let's move on. We're going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So these 2 guys here. So let's do 1, and then here's my next stitch with 1 more single crochet. So you have to repeat those steps all the way around until you end up with 24 stitches, and I will demonstrate one more time. So we're going in with an increase. So here's my next stitch, an increase with a single crochet. So that's my first single crochet, and we have to do that one more time into the same stitch. Now we want to single crochet into the next 1, 2 stitches. So here's 1, there's my next stitch for another one, and now we have to repeat that. I think I should just show that one more time. So let me increase into the next stitch. So that was 1 single crochet, another one into the same stitch, and now you want to single crochet into the next 1, 2 stitches. Okay, so now you have to repeat that until you get 24 stitches in total for round 2. So remember, you're just repeating an increase and then a single crochet into the next 2 stitches. Once you get to your stitch marker, you should end up with 1 single crochet left. So I made it towards the end and I have 3 stitches left. I do want to show this one last time. So we have to do our increase. So that was 1 single crochet, another single crochet into the same stitch. And then now into the last 2 stitches, we're just doing 1 single crochet. So that was 1, and now we have to remove our stitch marker and do our last single crochet. And then we'll take our stitch marker and place it back in. And now we have 24 stitches in round 2. Round 3, we have another increasing round, and it's also our last round. So let's start off with an increase into the first stitch. Now, because we don't have any chain 1s, we can just go into our normal stitch, which is this guy right here. I'm just going to do an increase into the first stitch. So that was 1 single crochet. I'm going to do another one into the same stitch. And now for this round, we have to single crochet into the next 1, 2, 3 stitches. So I'll go into this one, my next one, that's 2, and my third one. So now you have to just repeat that until you get to 30, and I will demonstrate one more time. So let's start with an increase. So that was 1. Another increase or another single crochet into the same stitch, and then we're going to single crochet into the next 1, 2, 3. So that was 1, 2, and 3. And again, just to show that one last time, we're going to start off with an increase, 1 single crochet, 2 into the same stitch, and then you're going to single crochet into the next 1, 2, 3. So now just repeat those steps all the way through until you get to 30 stitches. I have 4 stitches left. I'm doing my last repeat, so I'm going to start off with my increase here. So that's 1 and 2. So now we're going to single crochet into the last 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, and then I'll take my stitch marker out and do my last stitch. And this time we can just cut off some yarn. It doesn't need to be too long. And just pull this out, and we can actually just take our threading needle. You can use your crochet hook if you want, but I'm going to take my threading needle and I'm going to insert it into the next stitch here. So basically the one after you just finished. I'm just going to pull it through, and then I'm going to go back into this. You can see the single crochet here. I'm not sure if you can see it because it's kind of hard, but you can see this middle part right here. I'm just going to poke it through and just pull it, and then I'll stuff the brown back in. So I have my pot right here, and you can see when you put it in, it kind of fits. You're gonna have to glue it on. I use a hot glue for that. And then if it's too small, what I usually do is I just stretch it out a bit, because I didn't want the brown to be like that wide, because yarn does stretch. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to pull it, and then once you do that, you can see now it looks a little bit better. And then you know, once you glue it on, it's going to be a little bit easier after you stretch it. But right now we're going to go on to our arms.